What is up, Work here, and today we're checking out a timed Everbloom 24 run, fortified, raging, and the worst affix that's ever existed, Afflicted. This affix is so bad unless you run with an Evoker. Preservation Evoker is able to solo both of them, both Afflicted, every once in a while, every minute or something, and I only have to help out now and again. So right off of the rip, pretty scary. Something hit me, the damage is high, we bubble and do our damage, which we do a lot of. I have a feeling some other people in the poll got spooked, or maybe they got stunned, and there's a little bit of downtime while we wait for the pack to get gathered, and it's kind of then sort of somewhat unclear sometimes, like when we're kicking. So it's possible someone was getting choked out, is what happens. Yeah, the choking vines. There we go. Looks like an afflicted went off, but it's a pretty nasty pull in the beginning. But everything's gonna be fine here. You can, if even if there's a couple deaths here, it's not a huge problem for the first entire part of the dungeon. As long as we're killing things, which we are. So for context, this group or very similar group has been kind of battling with this dungeon, sort of from like almost like a not a hypothetical, from like a conceptual point of view, like what is the hard part about this dungeon, right? And so, why have we not been timing it on these like kind of like mid 20 keys here? We've done this on a 26, a 25. Both of them ran into issues though. Um, and so we decided to do it at a 24, which seems like more accessible. There's usually when we did this basically without our evoker healer, it was tough. I would say that the affix this week, Afflicted, I have learned to really hate it because I've healed this as a 23, I've DPS'd it as a 26 and a 25, and as the other dispeller, it is tricky because there are some damage dispels here, and like this one for instance, and you sort of have to decide in a couple cases if we don't have, which we don't, any additional afflicted dispellers that like, what are we doing? Are we going to heal through the dot and go for the afflicteds, which is, normally the only case you have. Um, has been challenging this week, and afflicted is like kind of annoying because again, like this is the comp that we're gonna run because like this is like everyone's main for the most part, and not everyone being able to interact with afflicted is kind of annoying anyway. But we're pushing through this. This is a somewhat new route here. We've sort of adapted, I think, kind of Yoda's route that I see his group do. Our tank, I think, watches similar runs happen, and we've had to like really talk through this place because at lower keys you can just YOLO W key and pull like everything. You can even pull over count, like it's really not a big deal. But the trasher actually does get kind of tough, which we'll talk about the hard part when we get to it. But we're quote unquote like over pulling or like doing like what is like extra count in the front so that we can do a lot of skipping at the end. And the skipping did take me a while to get used to. I had to like literally practice it. If you can double jump like our Havocs, not a problem, and our Evoker, and then the Druid can stealth it. I have to do this kind of scuffed tree jump, which we'll see in a little bit. But what this allows us to do is skip basically all the abominations. I think we skip all three of them, which they do a lot of AoE damage. It's definitely healable. But the issue is they take a long time to kill. They're just a big time sink, and it's pretty easy to actually do this trash instead. As this key gets higher, as we did do some 26s, other than the casts going off, like the choking cast, I think I have to run over and grab this one. So most of the time, our Evoker can do both, and then they can kind of heal it if they have to, as like a last resort. But every once in a while, I have to run in and do the mechanic. That is very different from our other groups where like I'm always doing it, which I'm fine to do. But if someone can solo it, that's very helpful. So running with a Pres Evoker this week, Afflicted, has proven to be very, very good. And of course, running with an AUG is helpful as well. So again, we're doing this like a lot of trash in the beginning here. And this is going to allow us to skip the abominations, which this has been a modification as we get to the 25 keys. We really don't want to fight those things. They take forever. And they do a lot of damage. If things go a little bit wrong, even, you might be using cooldowns, defensive cooldowns, before you want to, because you want to use the defensive cooldowns on the mages. I would say the other fundamental thing here that's changed is that it took a while to come to this. I think on Fortified, this is certainly the play. We'll see about this week or next week where it's tyrannical, is we lost that mage pack. It's just 3 mages. What could go wrong? Well, I have wiped with this group and variations of this group 2 of those mages. That has been the wall. We kill them eventually, but that is like the chain death time sink of the entire dungeon are these 3 mages. The bosses, when you're learning them, they're kind of tough. Next week at Fortified 25, yeah, it's going to be kind of tough too. But the thing that will actually wreck your entire key are the mages, and we're gonna lust the crap out of them. Spoiler alert. Another tiny thing here is that we pull that trash away from the boss, because when I attack, I just automatically send Consecration every once in a while, and like I forget this is other talent that basically throws an AoE on the ground, and if you're really unlucky, like I was in a 25, that stuff doesn't go away when the boss spawns. So that's pretty bad. So if I'm here, our tank knows to like get me away from the boss, or else we're not able to do this trash pull. So that has been a tiny amendment as well. And some of the things that are good about obviously having a consistent like kind of push group here is that like we've done this key, I think this week maybe like 8 times or something with like almost this exact group. So we find these little nuances of the comp. Whereas like, your average pug may not be running a ret, and be aware of that. They're probably running like, Og Mage Havoc or Havoc Outlaw, Og, something like that. But with a ret in town, you have to pull those casters away from the boss, or else I'm going to like auto pull the boss. It doesn't happen every time, but you don't really want to risk the run either. So this part of the dungeon is pretty unremarkable. I don't know if it shows the time of day here, but it's late. We've also done this dungeon, I think, twice already. I think we did a 26 and then a 25, and, well, a bit of a wall at the at the mages. Not like we couldn't finish it, but it was like, okay, we've like just like, we've spent too long, You can't, like, if we chain wipe once here, it's not too bad, but twice it's pretty much over. It's not really timeable. So we've done a bit of that already on the 26, the 25. And what's funny is that, like, it's not really like any harder or easier. I mean, I know objectively it is easier, but I think the things you run into in the mid 20s is that like these things are just one shots. So if it like overkill one shots you or just like barely one shots you, it still one shots you. I'm talking pretty much about the pyro, the pyro bolt, the one that leaves a dot with the mages. That on its own can kill you definitely on a 26. But then in the overlap with the Cinderbolt volley, the unavoidable AoE, that'll certainly kill you. So it doesn't really matter if it's going to kill you at a 24 or a 26. It's just the trash and bosses live a little bit longer. Obviously, that's like a DPS thing. But the real problem here, again, as we'll see, will be the mages. And around 25 and higher, if you don't have a major defensive up, it's going to kill you anyway. So it actually doesn't feel that different doing the 24 and the 26, other than obviously things take a little bit longer to die. And maybe just like, the general AoE damage that's kind of going out there that's unavoidable is a bit higher. So to excuse like some tiny sloppiness that does happen in this run this is very late. We have done, I think we timed the 24 fall in between because fall is like pretty fun and easy at this point. But before this, we're at like some pretty decently grueling 25 and 26 runs of this place. And I think somewhere else as well, I forget. Yeah, so I'm really not having to dispel too much. Whereas if you see my other runs, if we don't have our Evoker, I'm dispelling on cooldown. And then it's stressful for the healer because they probably only have 1 dispel as well. And if there's any damage, this is just like, again, why this affix is kind of eh. So I'm holding my cooldowns here. Hopefully don't eat that waterfall. And we're doing pretty well. Is it just 1 death, really, from the beginning? Not bad. There was, I don't know what was happening. I think there's like 4 casters or something like that need to get rounded up in the beginning. And they're always in like various states of being kicked, and maybe some of them went off, and it was just a little bit too much. So We are skipping that patrol. Some people pull that abomination pack. We do not. We just elect for literally 0 abominations get pulled, I believe. And in here is a little funny because what's usually supposed to be happening is that the furthest player is going to get dashed at. It's kind of like a Taldazar as well. Except in the tree, I think that it's the distance checking on the mobs is like maybe a little bit funny. So there's a dash or a whirl. There's another whirl. Okay, so actually, in this case, the whirls are all going to the healer. Must be fun to be a ranged healer. I'm an H-Pal healer, so I'm just right in there in melee. And all the AoE stops have gone out. I think I tried to use mine. I wasn't paying attention. The pack's basically dead. But I saw everyone's AoEs coming out for that one, and we want to stop all the choking vine casts. So this is definitely the power of the Vengeance Demon Hunters. They can do it solo for like an entire minute. Into Chaos Brand, there's a freedom. That's the scary part of this dungeon. For the tanks, I've seen people do this on like 27s and like the highest geared you could ever be. 27 this place, those flowers build a dot up in you that will basically completely kill you unless you like can kite. What was it? What was the old tanking affix that used to necrotic? Oh my god, it's basically the necrotic this dungeon on the higher keys where you actually have to tank until you actually have to. I'm sorry, kite until your debuff falls off. Unless you're a paladin or you run with one, because I can freedom that dot off of them, so they can pull as many flowers as they want, burn through their cooldowns, and then I can freedom them when it gets like really bad, and then when I'm tanking, I can freedom myself. So there is the second abomination patrol, just walking by them. Then we jump through the branches, and then the third abomination patrol right there has been imprisoned. And then the last abomination right now has been padding back and forth, and we have to wait for him to be in a certain place. I almost screw this up, but I get it. This is a very, very funny jump if you don't have a double jump. It's really tough as a paladin, I think. And we are able to skip all of that entire left side. So that's pretty massive. And I think a necessary tactic for, Fort especially. So there is one tragedy, I believe here, maybe multiple, I'm not sure. But which is rare for this group because we've done this boss, not a problem. But what was the tactic before 24, 25, 26 was to lust this and lust the last boss. Like that makes a lot of sense. But what I believe it is, and I've seen other groups, Yoda's group does it as well, they lust the mages. Like the mages are really like scaled out of control here. And it's like, I believe it's impossible to kick it. So here's the unfortunate part. All 3 of the melee, minus the Havoc, all jump to the same spot. And even at like, this isn't like that high of a key, but like even at this much, that's a little bit too much. Now, I think I had all my defensives up. I probably could have bubbled it. I thought I was just going to get away with it, but we did this key like so many times like today on this place, and this never happened, but it is certainly worth communicating like where you're going to run during that. As a tank, it definitely makes sense for the tank to run up the hill so they can jump between the adds. And it makes more sense for the melee to run towards the tree where you used to be able to do the LOS, or just back a little bit. So I was kind of, I don't know, not really thinking about it too much. I know I don't want to pull the trash back behind us, but it was a pretty unfortunate burn of both our battle reses, so we need to do really well. This fight does go on a little bit longer than we're used to because we usually lust this and then lust the last boss, but we're trying it. We're like, what we were doing before wasn't quite working. We're not all like fully mythic. I think most people are 45 here. You can go higher, right? So we don't have like the highest gear, so we don't quite out-level this yet. So given our fixed gear at this point, at the end of the week here, we have to try something new. The new thing is to try to lust the mages and just deal with these bosses. And we don't normally do this cleaner, but they're also probably like dead-ish by now. But anyway, especially in an all melee group, which is pretty common this season, we don't really have very many ranged in the guild that we run with. There's basically a demo lock and that's it. There's no real there's some mages and stuff like that, but not that many that are at 485 that can, help time like 25s and 26s, etc. at this point anyway. So we're all melee. When this is all melee, it's worth a tiny note, like where people are going to position. And if you're DPS, I would default to behind me from now, and then to the right. Let the tank take the hill there. So just an unfortunate thing. Even in the 26, this boss was no problem. Like we don't have any real problem here. That was just like kind of an unfortunate. Everyone jumped together, so kind of sad. So this has certainly put pressure on this next part because both battle reses got burned. That is super unfortunate. I am taking our ice collar here. I get the first kick. And the 3 mages coming up, even this can go pretty wrong on a 26. This hurts a lot if this is done wrong. If anyone gets caught in the ice, um, we don't have any afflicted overlaps. It could get pretty bad. So there's only 2 mages, and this is really good practice for us to be calling out kicks and not overlapping kicks. And being like, if you did, you call it out, and we just need to be. It is. I'm sure that's what this is for. This is just practice communicating for the upcoming poll. So we don't even have a battle res at the moment. I didn't watch the overlap, but healing this week, I've done it a bit, is tough because you are dealing with afflicted and you're healing. And this pack specifically has certainly enraged me as a healer and our other healers, and it's hard. It's certainly a challenging one because you have to move a lot. You can't just plant and cast, and you have to go find the afflicteds, and it's a lot for the healer this week. Even if I'm helping out, even if someone is helping out, it's certainly a lot. And I think the healer, no matter what, I know as being one, it sort of kind of feels like it's your deal, even if other people should be helping. So a little warm up here, and we all know what's coming up. This group, we just did this on a 25 and a 26, and we've had varying degrees of success, and we do kill them. But what we want is as minimal death as we can, and what we can't really afford at this point is a full wipe. People can die because I think it's almost impossible to get every kick. In general, my philosophy for this is to melee kick the pyromancer so that never goes off because that has a dot after. And then the other casts, Frostbolt and Arcane Blast, are mostly healable or slightly defensible. But the dot is really bad unless you're going to burn an immunity, which we want the immunity as a latch as ever. I'm going to burn mine, almost definite. But it's not bad to have your immunity Netherwalk and Bubble for the boss because there's some pretty bad overlaps that happen there too. So I think we're going right into it. I ask our Evoker to kick Ice Collar, has been the call, and I am second kick on Pyromancer. I think the first one already got kicked. That looks like Darkness into Cinderbolt Salvo. This is like big AoE damage. We're prepared. That's my kick on that one. That's the must not go out. The other ones, it would be great to kick them, and we're doing good here. I don't have a kick for this. I think I communicate that. Great. Mule gets it. Pyromancer doesn't go off. Let's see if Arcane Blast is what's going to end someone's life. Yeah, I think that was probably what killed Shimmy there. And I think the call is being made here to res. I'm not positive. Let's see. I've bubbled already. I didn't even catch that. But anyway, this has gone relatively well in that our squishiest of melee have died, so it's unfortunate, but it's not a full party wipe. So that made it look like pretty reasonable, but let me tell you, I have a highlight reel of us getting absolutely wiped by this place. And again, being 24, not at 26, it wasn't all that bad. So, believe it or not, I mean, I think if you run this place at a high key, like you must have experienced this to some degree before on this place, is that pack is hard. And that is the hardest one. So we committed Lust and almost all defensives to get it. And surprisingly enough, if you're used to being like extra tanky, that those mobs really hurt at like a 25, 26. I think 24 it's not so bad, but they do a reasonable amount of damage. If you're not prepared for it as this scales up, you're like, oh, these little melee is like not such a big deal. But the 26, I remember the tank was like, oh, ouch, this is like actually kind of a problem. And at the 27s, I've seen people slow pull them in. You don't pull all of them in. You kind of slowly bring in a couple because I think they're just like too distracting. Just damage. So this one, I am not worried about uptime. I do what Paladin does. We have our burst window, and then I get out of there. So depending on what's coming up, this isn't like the damage play here, but I basically pool Holy Power in case I need to heal. Okay. This fight is rough. Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, this is a full reset. Okay. Okay. So it's definitely nice to lust this boss, but that's probably next week, you know, for Tyrannical. We can probably just burn the trash down. But this boss is all three of those mobs put together, except you can't kick any of the things. So it's not so much about kick communication, it's just like anticipating the damage. But what this allows me to do, which is good, is I'm going to have Bubble. And I think this is one of Rhett's powers, and Demon Hunter as well, is that we basically have an immunity where we can get our damage out. So I have all my cooldowns up now, so this is a better parse for me probably. We're going in. We should use a decently strong defensive there. It's a shield. I'm the highest of all the DPS because of that on health. And, oh, I've used Bubble already. So, oh no, it's coming back up. I'm pretty sure I commit Bubble through like an AoE phase. We just get to ignore mechanics for 8 seconds and do damage. So Bubble is a DPS cooldown. Obviously, it's a defensive cooldown, but otherwise, you know, to help out, I typically try to pull Holy Power so I can heal. Like, look how much higher I am than everyone else, too. It might be that I outranged our Prevoker. That's possibly what's happening. And I don't have the uptime on the boss, certainly. But I am prioritizing living, because, like, we'll eventually get this boss if we just keep living the phases. Oh, that was sus. That was really sketchy. And I don't have Bubble to save myself after. But because I can self-heal, I feel fine outranging our healer by a little bit and just going and living on my own. And that continues to be my tactic here. I could get some uptime on the boss, but again, a bad overlap with the fire. Oof. Heal. Ooh, that was not played well. Again, I do hold a lot of holy power for healing. Not always the play. The other two are definitely having better uptime and doing more damage, but I am just trying to stay alive. That looks like a bubble commit, and I'm able to get some more damage in there. I should have probably called that I bubbled, but it looks like a shimmy. She got the batteries off before me. Is hers instant cast? Mine's like kind of a scuffed intercession cast there. But I bubbled in like what looked like a really bad overlap. Almost died to that one as well. And, you know, it did get someone, right? So if it got our DH, it probably would have gotten me too. So I bubbled it and was able to keep going. So that was more of a pure defensive, but it is common that, like, in the opener, first pull here, I'm like, oh, there's some stuff happening. No, there isn't. I bubble. And I do my full, you know, damage, and then I can kind of get back to kicking and in this case, healing. I'm just like, okay, let me heal. Wow. Just right through the fire. Next week, I'd be dead. This 25 Tyrannical, I'm pretty sure I would be dead to this. And we're not holding any cooldowns for this one. We need this to die. You can certainly get comfortable at the end. And she's like, yeah, but how about another Cinderbolt Salvo? And then like 3 people die. And you could certainly, I think our tank could definitely finish it at that point. But this fight's not over until it's over. So while that trash looked not too bad, if you've ever run this place at a high key for it, it's like, you know, or mid key like this one, it's like, you know, that needs to be done slightly with care. You need lots of kicks, and you need to certainly use your defensive if you're about to get hit by anything that couldn't be kicked. So that has been the triumph of the week, of last week, really, as of recording this, that we were able to, you know, figure out a tactic to get this done. Time-wise, the route is pretty efficient. We skip all the nasty A-bombs. I would do this even on Tyrannical, hopefully. I think that this still makes a lot of sense. But maybe for Tyrannical, we go back to lusting the council, and then we'll hopefully have lust for this, possibly. But that's up for the tank at this point. I haven't run this. I don't think I've run EB at 25 or 24 Tyrannical, so I'm not really sure where the wall will be. But given our luck, we do get this key an awful lot. But we're also pretty practiced at it at this point. This fight without lust is not ideal. This is typically the fight that the group really wants to use it on, because this boss just goes forever. Plus, there's an ad. So anytime an ad spawns, it just slows down the DPS on the boss, which is not great. But we're pretty confident in living this. Even living this on a 26 with our Prevoker, completely fine. Even with this, like, I don't know what happened to my damage. I think I like didn't have cooldowns, or didn't, I don't know. Not very good at the moment on the boss here. But living this part, not really a problem. 25, 24, 26, like it's been fine. We've gotten this far and gotten through it. it's just staying all of us alive during the mage pack on 45 weeks is really tough. We go through if you don't lust it, we go through all of our kicks rather quickly, and then people start dying, right? One person's going to die, and then if that person happens to be one of our dispellers, then we're all going to die. So it's especially compounded by like kind of how possibly difficult this week is here. This is a scary part, is that the mob isn't dead yet, and there's, you know, 2 afflicted, and look how low the group is. Stressful to be the healer for sure. I think I'm, you know, it's questionable if like actually healing was a good call there, because we really needed to kill the mob, but us staying alive, we keep being able to do the fight. Little lay on hands there. That probably could have happened a lot earlier, but just to let the healer. Actually, that lay on hands would have been more clutch if I did that during the afflicted, but here's another chance. Afflicted happens way too often. This affix is absolutely one of my least favorites right now. In corp, I'm fine with, mostly because both of our demon hunters handle it. But even if they can't, I can hodge it, I can delay it, we can kick it, and anyone can interact with it. But afflicted is just so bad. Like, why are they making it like it's quote unquote not a healer affix, but it 100% turns into a healer affix, especially given the meta is 2 THs that can't do anything to it, and then, you know, mages technically can decurse it, and paladins are not like certainly meta. They're present in the highest keys. I think at like a rather low percentage, but they're there. But again, the meta for your average group, it's pretty much on the healer, and I've seen this in a lot of other groups echoing this as well. Well, technically, there's like shaman and monk can do it too. Those have been like the best groups I've run. It's like when you have those there, because then shaman can just do both. But otherwise, this affix is really bad. But, you know, luckily a preservation evoker that knows what they're doing is, and of course, anticipating it. Solos both half the time. I almost never even have to do it. So heal the group and do both. That is Resto Shaman probably with Poison Totem, and then Preservation Evoker with, I forget what their second dispel is, but they have 2 dispels every minute or something like that. Pretty good. We're getting the ad down here. We have the DPS. I don't know what happened to my DPS in the beginning. It was rather sad. I'm still quite being gapped by everyone else. It's common to be gapped by the Demon Hunter, but I think I must have missed some major uptime here, perhaps, or maybe I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but anyway, this part of the boss not a huge deal. Just kind of looking back at the week of just learning this dungeon. So we have like a very evasive early pull route into skipping all the A bombs. 25 and higher, fortified. I would certainly lust the mage pack and just suffer through this. Tyrannical, I'm not sure that's the case, but still, 25, that mage pack, 2 of those casts, you're still dead. But they won't be afflicted next week, so maybe it won't be as bad. So there it is finally, as Rep Paladin. Couldn't do it as healer, but as Rep Paladin, I feel a bit tankier even. I've got 2 defensives and bubble, and, you know, can do enough damage to help contribute to, you know, the mid-20s for an EB, which I consider one of like the medium difficult dungeons this season. We get a coagulated blood, which I'm not sure that Evokers run. I farmed that for quite a while. And yeah, good way to end the week. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.